Is it a Tuesday at 2 p.m.? Is this the ROMKids Show? Hello, everyone. It's your favorite camp director. It's me, Kiran Mukherjee, coming at you live from a new location outside. Third episode ever being done outside, and the second in this backyard, because long-time viewers of the show, friends of the show, know that we are in the process of moving. So we have moved to a backyard for now and a basement to stay safe and also to have a roof over our heads. So we're bringing you this week's episode all about the water cycle live from this backyard, special backyard edition. Hello everyone in your virtual kitchens, in your living rooms, or out here in the very first studio audience we've ever had on the ROMKids Show. Say hi to all our friends out in our backyard, very, very far away. Hi guys, welcome to the show. That's really fun. First time we've ever had a very distanced studio audience, but that was really cool. Hello to all the classrooms and virtual classrooms, and hello to everyone on YouTube. It's the ROMKids Show, the Royal Ontario Museum's Distance Learning Initiative. Really excited to talk to you about the water cycle today. Last week we had Julie Tomei on to talk about rainbows and colors and light, and that was an amazing episode up on YouTube now. Next week on the ROMKids Show, Dr. Santiago Claramount joins us to talk about ornithology, birds, and why birds have the wings that they have, and why different wings do different things. And with that, we have special guest Chipmunk right there. I hope you saw that. That was cool. We might also have a lot of caterpillars joining us today. A lot of caterpillars in our backyard here. Maybe we'll talk about that on a future episode of the ROMKids Show. But with that, I feel ready to do the theme song portion of the event. Welcome to the ROMKids Show with me. We'll do some crafts and tell some stories. Let's talk about science, art, and history. Welcome to the ROMKids Show, starring you and me. Good job! Nice! And that's the theme song portion of an event with some folks also singing it right here. I don't have to move anywhere today, but here we are. We got 3 different things that we're going to be doing to talk about the water cycle, and then I'm going to try and tell you today why I think the water cycle is one of the most important cycles happening on planet Earth. So I'm very excited for that. What do you need for our 3 different experiments? Experiment 1, you need a giant plastic bag, okay? Preferably something that you can see right through. You need some Sharpies, and you need some water. And then later, you're gonna tape it to a window that gets lots of sun. This is our water cycle in a bag experiment, okay? The second thing that you need is we're gonna do the water cycle in a jar. So you need a mason jar. Whoa, spilt water on my computer, sure it's fine. You need a mason jar that is clear, that you can see right through. You then need 1/3 of it filled with boiling water, and then you need a plate, and then you need ice. And then I'm just gonna ask if a cloth could be brought to me, because I spilled some water on my computer in a very exciting way. And then final thing, what you need for our 3rd experiment, which is gonna show how clouds work, is you need again, another clear jar, maybe a clear cup that's nice and wide. Fill it most of the way up with water. Then you're going to need shaving cream, and you're going to need either blue food coloring or blue watercolor ink, okay? And then you're gonna need an eyedropper for that too. So those are the 3 things that we're gonna be doing today on the show. So grab all those things, and while you're grabbing those things, and again, we're gonna do the water cycle in a bag first. Let's talk about water, okay? And where we find water. Think of places that you see water, okay? You've probably seen it outside after it rains. You've seen it if it snowed. You've seen it if you have ice in a cup. I have ice in this cup right here that I was going to drink. It's even starting to do some condensation on the outside of the glass right there, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I'm also a little bit thirsty. Because water is really, really important to our life. So some other places that we can see. This is Mount Everest right here. And I don't know if you can see it because we're frankly outside, but that's Mount Everest right there. And you can see ice in the form of a solid in terms of ice and snow on the top of Mount Everest. So any mountain that you see, if it's covered in white, it's probably snow and ice, and snow and ice is the solid version of water. You've also seen water, again, in a solid version, in icebergs, which are super cool. You can see it, again, in a different form in gas, okay? So you can see it in clouds, which we're going to talk about. Hi, Chipmunk, which we're going to talk about in a little bit too. And then finally, you can see water in terms of a liquid right there in water. What a magical substance that can be found in so many different ways. You can sometimes feel it too if it's really humid outside. So you know in like the really humid days of the summer where you're just covered in water wherever you walk, that's because it's just there's so much water in the air. It's like you're walking through it. So what does this all work? What is water made of? H2O. So that's hydrogen and oxygen, okay? Hydrogen and oxygen is what water is made of, and I will try and speak louder for all our friends. I got my, because it's really windy out here. So how does water get to be in all these places? How does water get to be in the sky? How does water get to be in ice and in glaciers? How does water get to be in oceans? Well, that is all a part of the water cycle. First, what's a cycle? A cycle is like the wheel of a tire, maybe on a bicycle that turns over and over and over. You can see it in the natural world all the time. Think about the sun and the moon, okay? In the morning, the sun rises, then it sets in the evening, then the moon rises and sets in the morning when the sun rises again. That's a natural cycle. A water cycle is another cycle, something that happens over and over and over again endlessly, okay? And I think the water cycle is very important because it allows for life to exist. So what we're going to do to sort of demonstrate this is we're going to draw a picture. So I need you to grab your big giant Ziploc bag, okay? And you're going to draw a scene right on it. So I'm going to draw a sun, I'm going to draw a cloud, I'm going to draw some land, and then I'm going to draw an ocean. And then we're going to explain how all of these things work together to create the water cycle, okay? So first thing I'm going to do off the bat is I'm just going to draw my sun, all right? Very important. I got my yellow Sharpie right here. Just going to draw a sun in the top corner of the bag. Draw some little circles inside. It's a happy little sun right there. Then I'm going to draw a cloud. I'm going to keep going on, but I want to keep talking to you about the water cycle here. So the water cycle is sort of a bunch of big words that I'm going to explain working together. We have evaporation, we have condensation, we have precipitation, we then have runoff and flow and repeat. So what do all those big words mean as I drop a little blue cloud onto my water cycle bag right here? So let's break it down, and because it's a cycle you can start anywhere, but we're going to start at the top with precipitation. And precipitation is when it rains, okay? So precipitation occurs in many ways that you've seen. You've seen precipitation as rain, you've seen it as snow, you've seen it as hail, and what happens up in the sky is water vapor, which is what happens after evaporation, but we'll get to that, eventually pools together, okay? And that forms clouds that you can see. And we are covered in clouds right now above us. And we got a darker one right there. But all of these clouds are an example of water in the air, okay? Water in the air. And as this water vapor pulls together and gets heavier and heavier and heavier, then it forms condensation, okay? Maybe I should have done this in a different way, but essentially it's really hot on the ground and it's colder in the sky, and the coldness turns the evaporated water into condensation, okay? And then that condensation pools together and forms precipitation. So maybe you should always start the water cycle with evaporation, which is what I'm talking about here. So precipitation, water falls onto the ocean, onto our lands, and I'm going to draw right on mine. I'm going to draw a mountain and some ground. Oh, I almost did it the opposite way. There we go. I'm going to draw a little mountain, And then I'm going to draw some ground like that. Precipitation falls. It lands on a mountain. It streams right on down. Maybe it hits a lake or a stream and heads into the ocean. Then in the ocean or on land, anywhere you see a puddle, it starts to evaporate, okay? And that's when the heat from the sun heats up the water and it turns into a gas, okay? And it goes up into the sky, all right? That's evaporation. Then again, once it's up there, it turns into condensation, which means it starts to cool down, forming water droplets as they pool together. As gravity forms and puts its power onto this condensation, it falls from the sky, making precipitation, which is rain. So how does this all work? I've drawn maybe some trees right here. That might be kind of fun, a little tree. And then I'm going to draw the green part of a tree. Nice, just like that. And I'll show you what I'm doing here too. Okay, you can see my big bag. And then here is a whole bunch of oceany water. And we're going to show this in a different way in a second, which is really fun. Here's my bag. It's not really exciting, and you can all do a better job in your classroom or at home. You can draw an airplane or maybe a city. What you're trying to do here is demonstrate how the world works and how water functions within it. So what happens? Let's go over this again. Let's imagine you are in the ocean, a raindrop that is now in the ocean right here. It's a nice sunny day. It starts to heat up. That means the water on the top starts to turn into a gas, and it goes right up into the sky. Then a whole bunch of it pools together. Gravity pulls it together. It starts to cool down, so it turns into condensation and water. Gravity pulls it right on down because it's starting to get so heavy, and it rains, precipitates down onto this mountain. Water flows down the mountain into a lake, past the trees and into the ocean, and then it happens all over again in an endless cycle. And that, in the easiest way, is the water cycle. And the big takeaway here is always start with evaporation. It doesn't make sense to start anywhere else, okay? Once you are done your drawing, and I want you to take your time with this, even though we have 2 more projects to do here, is you're gonna fill your bag with water right up to here. I'm gonna pour some of my water right in here to show you. Just gonna right along the bottom, right where you made sort of your ocean level. Ooh, that's cold, and that would have tasted so good. Okay, you can see I got water in there. If I had more, I would fill it right to the top of my ocean. Okay, yeah, let's do it. We're outside. We got a hose. I've become friends with this hose. Let's throw some water in there. Oh yeah, we're gonna use this to water the plants after. There you go. That's good. All right. What you're going to do is once you get your water in there, you're then going to seal it up nice and tight. Okay? Then you're going to go around your house or your classroom and try and find the sunniest place. Okay? A window that gets a ton of light. Then you're going to tape this onto that window. Okay? A nice bunch of tape right at the top. So ask your teacher or your trusted adult what a good place to do this would be. Then you're going to walk away. Now, after about an hour of sun on this bag, maybe 2 hours, I want you to come back. So set a timer on your watch. Come back to your bag. And what you're going to see, hopefully, is that the sunlight will have started to evaporate the water in the bag. Because it has nowhere to go, it's going to just sort of collect at the top. Because it's cooler at the top, it will start to condensate, forming water. And then once there's enough of it, it will sort of precipitate and rain down the side of your bag. And this cycle will happen endlessly over and over. We did this a couple months ago, and I left the bag up for 4 months, and the water was still in there. It was a really fun experiment to do, and that shows you the water cycle. Okay, I want to show you a different way to demonstrate the water cycle for you folks now as well. What you need is a mason jar, okay? And I want you to fill it up about 1/3 of the way with boiling water. So you need your trusted adult or a teacher to help you out with this because you're working with boiling water, which is a little bit dangerous, okay? So you're gonna fill it up 1/3 of the way. Then what you need is you need a plate that you're gonna put right on top of your mason jar, like so. Then you're gonna put ice on the top of this as well. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna take my boiling water and I'm gonna fill it up 1/3 of the way. Thank you for all our off-camera help today. Just filling that, look at all that steam. Right on up to about 1/3. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm gonna put my plate right on top. And you're just gonna leave this here for like a minute. Okay, and I'm gonna explain a couple things and then we're gonna get the ice out. So just let it hang out, let it vibe for a bit, and then let's see what's going on. Okay, rain in a jar. What is rain? Okay, so like I was talking about, once everything evaporates, then there's condensation up above us in those clouds. Once there's enough of it, gravity pulls it together because it's so strong and pulls it down to the ground. And that's how we get rain. Now, what I want to do is sort of show you how that can happen a lot faster than our bag experiment, because this is going to take you a couple hours. This experiment is going to take you a couple of minutes. So we're going to take our ice now. It's been enough time. Whoa! I'm just going to put a bunch of it right on top. Okay, get those cubes right on top. This is these nice square ones. I don't know where you can purchase them, but they're cool. Put it right on. Put as much ice as you can, just to really make it work well. Okay, I'm gonna put this off to the side. And you're gonna let it stay there. What we're seeing, again, is that water cycle, but in a different form. We're explaining it sort of two different ways. So we have our ocean right here. The boiling water represents the sun heating it up. It then creates, the water vapor goes up to the top, where it then hits like sort of our atmosphere, where the clouds are, and it starts to cool down. And you're gonna see as the ice cools all the water vapor inside, it's then gonna condense, and then it's gonna precipitate. And you're gonna start to see all these bubbles on the outside, and then you're gonna start to see them collect as it cools, and then it's gonna drip right on down. And of course, like, I got a better angle on the other side here, but it's kind of hot. But you can see how it starts to collect. Gravity plays a really integral role in so many things, but also in the water cycle, because it pulls that condensation down from the sky and makes it fall to the earth. Okay? Clouds are sort of a concentrated sign that water is in the air. Water vapor bunches together to create clouds. Clouds are created over places with water to begin with, okay? And so I have a really cool map that I want to show you, sort of explain how this works, okay? Now, it's not the best image I got right here, but this is an image of Earth in the month of October, and I think 2009, okay? Can you see like all the parts of the map that are white? That symbolizes all the cloud cover that was seen in those regions during that month. So you can see so much of the world was ended up covered in clouds at some point. Now, can you see the bluer parts? The parts that don't seem to have a lot of cloud cover? Those are primarily deserts. So we can see middle of Australia, they didn't get a lot of cloud cover, which means they didn't get a lot of rain. Parts of Asia and the Middle East and North Africa, those parts didn't get a ton of rain. You can see through Western North America, so Canada and America right there, you can see a big patch with not a lot of rain. And you can also see in Antarctica, it's very blue, not a lot of clouds, which meant not a lot of rain, which means those places are often deserts. So cloud cover directly relates to rain, and the amount of rain a place gets directly relates to the type of environment it is, okay? If you get a lot of rain, think about like a rainforest. you're probably going to get a lot of diversity of plants and animals, because water leads to life. If there's not a lot of rain, you're probably going to end up in a place that's really dry. And while there still are forms of life and forms of plants and things like that, it's not as diverse as a place with lots and lots of water. So those are really important things that I learned about and I thought were really, really interesting. So you can see it's starting to rain a little bit more. Oh, I got a nice big drip right there. This is a really easy way to show the water cycle. Now, I want to talk about something that's on my mind a lot, and then we're going to do our final experiment, okay? And that's about oceans, and that's about how salty they are. Why are they so salty? It goes back to the water cycle. The water cycle seems to be involved in so many different things. So let's think about that rain, okay? It falls from the sky onto a mountain and rolls across the ground, maybe past a bunch of trees, all along the way, picking up minerals and salts from the environment that it's in. Then it might hit a river or a stream. Water is in a constant search to find the lowest point, and that's why water leaks in houses are so bad, because you might not know where they're coming from. It could be from the very top. Water is always trying to find the bottommost point, and on Earth, that's often our oceans. So when the water finally reaches the ocean, it brings with it all of those minerals and salts it picked up while it was on its adventure through the environment. Now, when water evaporates from the ocean, it doesn't take the salt with it. It just takes the water. The minerals that were in the water stay behind. So over millions and millions and hundreds of millions of years, the water cycle takes place with water evaporating and leaving behind all of the salt and minerals that it brought with it in its first place, okay? Isn't that so fascinating? Now, another really interesting thing is that oceans play a pivotal role in evaporation, and because they're the largest bodies of water on the planet. So you can imagine that when they evaporate, how wind plays an important role. Because wind moves this water vapor that evaporates over oceans to other parts of the world. So wind also plays a really important role in the water cycle. Now, I know we all want to play with some shaving cream. So let's move right over to our final experiment. Oh, I'm just gonna, done with you. There we go. I don't need that anymore. Okay, so finally, get that sort of wider bowl, wider cup, something that you can see through, okay? Has to be clear. Next thing you're gonna need is you're gonna need your shaving cream. All right, we got this right here. I use this to shave my head, but I'm practicing good sun safety today and wearing a hat. So, with your cup, fill it almost to the top, leaving some room for your shaving cream. What this is a demonstration about how clouds rain or precipitate. Okay, remember our big words are evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. So we're gonna make our clouds. Now, if you are using watercolor to do this, if you're using watercolor, I want you to use only a little bit of foam, because the watercolor doesn't go through the foam as easily as, say, so your food color. Use your food coloring in a light amount of shaving cream, and if you have blue watercolor, which is sort of thicker, then you can make bigger clouds, okay? And then you need your eyedropper to do it. So I'm just gonna put the shaving cream down. Whoa, there we go. Yeah, big, big clouds. Look at that. And thunder clouds are often ones that go the highest up into the air, okay? And our friends might need that. So I'm going to use this blue watercolor. Again, it's a little bit thicker. It's a thicker dye. All right, and then I'm going to use my eyedropper. Okay, I'm going to go right in there. Get a bunch just like that. And what this represents is all of that condensation that's happening in those clouds. And once there's enough of it in a real cloud, then that's when gravity can pull it down, right? So we're just gonna drip some on the top. And what you're gonna try and look for is the blue coming through the shaving cream and then into your water. And that symbolizes how clouds rain. You might have to do this a couple times to get it going, okay? There we go, I'm gonna take some more. Can we see that? Is it happening yet? Sometimes this takes a while. Which is sort of the same how rain works too, right? You have to get enough for it to happen. So you're starting to see some of it break through. Okay, as it travels through the shaving cream, it's the same way that water travels through a cloud. Okay? It's starting to break through. I think that's really, really fun. Look at that. So you can see, once there's enough of it, it can break through. It's a great way to visualize, to see, to demonstrate just how rain can work. So in 3 different ways today, we spoke about the water cycle, okay? We did our water in the bag, and what I learned is that my bag has a leak in it. So use a bag that's not leaky. We did the water cycle in a bag. We did our evaporation, condensation, precipitation experiment using boiling water and ice, which is really cool because as the water, as the evaporation, because it heats up, the water evaporates, and then once it comes in contact with a cold object or the colder air higher up in our atmosphere, it starts to condensate and precipitate. And then finally we demonstrated how over time, once there's enough water vapor in the clouds for it to condensate and then precipitate, it then rains down on Earth. All of this to say, okay, as we wrap up and conclude, the water cycle is a part of our planet, but it's really, really important that we protect. Do I have something on my eye? Oh, I have sweat, right? Am I sweating? Oh, I have caterpillars on me, which will be a future episode of the show to explain what the deal is with all these caterpillars. It's our job to protect our waterways, and it's a job to protect our water sources, okay? We need to keep our air clean, because if there's pollutions in our air when it rains, it brings those pollutions right back down to the planet and then into our waterways. And remember, rainwater is always looking for an ocean. So pollutions that are in our skies will then get brought into our waterways. You can't do that. That's not safe. And we need to make sure that we're not spreading our pollution too. We need to keep our oceans and seas clean. We can't drink that water because it's salty, but it certainly is an amazing place for biodiversity. Incredible corals and whales and fish and places for us to explore. These are important diversity of plants and animals that we must protect, okay? And we have to make sure that pollutions aren't entering into those areas. And finally, we use water to travel. We use water for fun. And we need water to live. Our bodies are made of something like 60% water, depending on sort of how old you are. All the food that we eat and the plants that we eat and the animals in our communities depend on water, so they require the water cycle as well. And we are an active part of the water cycle too. Think about it for a little bit. I was just talking about how I was sweating. That water is then going to evaporate and go back up into the clouds for it to rain later. And remember too, all of our human waste, if you want to think about that, that comes out of you, eventually evaporates as well. And when you cry, that's you being a part of the water cycle. And when you breathe, okay, as we've learned a lot about aerosols this year, when you breathe, that's water vapor that comes with it out and then eventually back into the water cycle. Because life requires water, all life requires water, it's important that we fight for water equity as well, which means that everyone has access to water and clean drinking water. And it's no matter how resourced you are, no matter how much you might have or don't have, everyone requires equal access, equitable access to water. And it's important to acknowledge that many communities around the world even here in Canada and Ontario, primarily Indigenous communities, don't have access to clean drinking water. So there's two water cycles I want you to think about. There's the natural water cycle that we just spent the last 30 minutes talking about, and then there's the water cycle of responsibility. And we have control and power over that water cycle. And that means that we have to make sure that everyone has access to clean drinking water. The water cycle of responsibility. I want you to think about it. I want you to take that. Teachers and adults, I want you to talk about that with your kids, because everyone deserves access to water, because water equals life. Wow, there you go. That was the third episode, outside edition of the ROMKids Show. First with a live audience. That was really cool. All the way over there with our friends. That was so fun. Obviously, we're having a lot of fun with our shaving cream too. Next week on the ROMKids Show, Dr. Santiago Claramount joins us to talk about ornithology, birds, and why different wings mean different things. We've had so much fun hanging out with you in your kitchen, your backyard, maybe your living room, your virtual classroom, and places all over the world. This has been the ROMKids Show. Thank you so much. See you on YouTube later this week. Hi to all our YouTube fans, and we'll see you next week, 2 p.m. on ROM Toronto Instagram for the ROMKids Show. Bye, everyone. We love you. Wear a mask. Stay safe. Bye, friends.